the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Ms. Haddock?
Yes.
Here. Mr. Nardone?
Here.
Mrs. Campbell? Here. Mrs. McCurdy?
Here.
Mr. Brogna?
Here.
Mr. Swank? Mrs. Bibla?
Here.
Mr. Boone? And Mr. Macri?
Here.
7 members present.
An executive session was held before tonight's board meeting regarding contracts, personal actions, and pending litigations. We'll be looking for approval of minutes of the special board meeting of July 17th. And we'll be looking for approval of the treasurer's report from June 23 and July 23 tonight. Just remind public testimony, please limit your time to 3 minutes and provide your name for the record. Start out, Mr. Nardone, financial planning.
Sure, thank you. I'll be seeking approval for items 1 through 8 on the agenda. Any questions from the board? Any questions from those of you in the public?
2 questions. Number 5, for the initiating Ray Wendelowski as far as dealing with property tax appeal. Why can't Jack do that?
That, Brian, that is a program that's instituted on the eastern part of the Commonwealth, if not throughout the Commonwealth. That includes an expert who goes and identifies the properties who are subject to tax appeals. So this expert comes in, he goes all over through the East Coast, raises attorney, and he'll identify for us, hey, there's a property, for example, in the industrial park. I don't think we have any up there right now this year. That was sold. He monitors sales and transactions. That is.
What's the cost of the districts for that then?
The district, the first year, it's a contingent fee, so there's no payment unless they win. We have 3 pending right now, and it's 50% of the increase in taxes. And Brian, I want to say it's either for the first 2 years or first year. I just don't remember what the fee agreement said that we entered into.
Okay.
So there's no cost to the district unless we recover.
All right. Item number 7, what is that agreement for?
That's for future placement for a student. Right now, we do not have a student there in this placement, but for future.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Mrs. Bibla, transportation.
Are we seeking approval of item number 1? Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Seeing none.
Thank you. Policy committee, Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. I am seeking approval of items under 1, third reading and adopt A through D, and second reading E. Any questions from the board and from the public?
Thank you. Human resources, Mrs. Bibla.
Are we seeking approval of items 1 through 9? Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public?
I do. Item 2, is that going to be replaced? You're going to look to replace that, or are you just assimilating that through and not replacing that position?
There's no replacement at this time, but we do have a teacher that was transferred over there, so for the start of the school year, we just use internal transfers.
Okay, so if I recall correctly, after all the furloughs were done, a staff member was brought back because you had a lack of, or a need for additional special education teachers. Brought back, I believe, was for Rice Elementary School. So I'll use this fictitious number. Let's say after all the furloughs were done, you had five special education teachers in the district. You said you needed another one, so you come up with 6 and you brought the person back. Now you have somebody who's leaving us, which gives it back down to 5. And now you tell me we don't need to do anything and we can do an internal transfer to cover that. How come we couldn't have done that prior to this resignation before we brought back the other furloughed person? Are you telling us that we brought somebody back that could have saved the district money and didn't need that person because now you're not replacing it? So you're still 5 from when you furloughed and you brought one back. Now you lose one because of resignation. You're at 5, but you're telling me you don't need it anymore.
At this time, we have approval for the resignation. We'll reevaluate when the students are here if we need another teacher.
But wouldn't you know that already based on your special ed population number? Because that's why you
And
said
at
you're-
this time, we're okay with the staff that we have in place.
So again, answering my question of why did you bring the other person back when you didn't need it? Because the numbers didn't necessarily mitigate the cost for an additional special education teacher to bring it up to 6 per se. And so now you're resigned, you got it back down to 5. I know my numbers are fictitious, but I'm just losing an easy, simple number for myself and everybody else to understand and comprehend.
My answer is still the same.
Remember, I came here and talked about truth, integrity, and trust. TIT. That's something that this board and leadership needs to be able to do so people understand clearly where you're heading and how you're doing this. That's where you're lacking. Truth, integrity, tell the truth, build integrity, you will gain trust. You're lacking the TIT in this district. You need to get it. And this is another thing where you're evading and you're not telling us because you brought someone back that you didn't necessarily need to do it, which would have cost the district another $100,000 when you're already talking about furloughing people, and you don't need it now. So truth, integrity, trust. We're lacking it. Let's get it back.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Academics Committee, Mrs. McCurdy.
Thank you. I'll be seeking approval for items 1 through 6. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public?
Co-curricular, Mrs. Haddix.
I will be seeking a motion and approval for items 1 through 4.
Mrs. Haddix, there is an error will have to be adjusted. Under clubs, item NN on page 6, that should be stricken. So you should approve everything but NN under clubs, as that was just erroneously put on there, and Mrs. Rositsky could verify that it has no reflection on Mrs. Rositsky.
Is there any questions from the board? Any questions from the public?
Physical plant, Mrs. Haddix.
I will be seeking a motion and approval for items 1, 2, and 3. Any questions from the board?
I'm not sure what the Bartush signs, what the front sign, the secondary campus is. Can anyone explain that?
So the backlit sign would be going on the front of the secondary campus where it was just finished with the masonry work, if everybody recalls that. This sign is to finish the project, should the board want to approve a sign. It's backlit letters, it says Home of the Comets, and it would be coming through Bartush. And it's paid through the capital account, should the board approve.
Any questions from the public?
Technology Committee, Mrs. McCurdy.
Thank you. I'll be seeking approval of items 1 and 2. Any questions from the board?
Damien, since you're here tonight, can you explain to us that the ChromebookParts.com, that is saving the district money, correct?
A lot, yeah,
A lot of
$100 per device.
$100 per?
Yep.
Very good. And that does, once that's done, that does give us 5-year life on those?
Yeah,
The
so
licensing?
The license is always the same. Yep, it's always 5 years regardless of the device's warranty. It'll always be a 5-year license, yes.
Excellent work. Thank you.
Any questions from the public?
Positive behavior, Mr. Brogna?
There's no report.
Intermediate unit?
Thank you. The minutes from the last meeting are on file in the superintendent's office and the district website. Our next LIU meeting is Wednesday, September 27th, 6:30 p.m. At the LIU board meeting room.
Thank you. CTC?
Yes, thank you. I would like to take a moment to recognize the passing of Chairman John Bailey, just last week. He was a very committed school director and his presence will be missed on the board, so I just wanted to say that tonight. The minutes are on file in the superintendent's office and on the district website, and the next CTC meeting is August 21st, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. at the CTC. Thank you.
We'll move on to the voting session. No, excuse me, non-agenda items?
STEM program. Sorry I had to leave the workshop the other night. I know you talked a little bit about the STEM program. Can you talk a little bit about class sizes for the STEM program for the elementaries? They're dealing with only 3 specials now instead of 4 and having to break down the classes. So what is a class size?
So we're still going through enrollment, right, as traditionally, we still have another week of school yet. As of right now, what we're projecting would be the highest in Fairview. Right now is about 36 per class size is the highest. I think we do that once. Traditionally, then they could be between 27 and 30. So it just really depends on that one large class size. And then at Rice Elementary, right now we do have one class at 42, but all the other classes are in the 30s.
Yeah, that's what I kind of figured out with your numbers, because I used your chart from May to figure that out, so I know the high numbers. I figured that they can each teach 7 classes a day for those 3, so you have to have 21 sections a day to teach, get preps in and those types of things. And at Rice, you have 29 sections though. You have 29 sections based on your numbers and projections back in May. How did you break that down to get it down to 21? Is that why you got up to 42? Because I got it down to 23, and I'm going, oh boy, I break any more down, you're gonna be looking at really, really high numbers.
That's a great question. I don't have that information with me. Mr. Mangini, our new principal, worked on that with Ms. Foster before she retired. I can get that to you. I have your email address and I can let you know. But that's the data that I have right now.
What kind of schedule are they putting in place then? Is it a 5-day traditional schedule, 6-day schedule, 2x2x2, a 60-day, so they're doing a 2x2x2 on the 6-day schedule, or how are they doing that?
So they're rotating 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
All that information will go out to the family so they know what to be prepared for.
So the content that's being taught itself, can you talk a little bit about that? Again, I'm sorry I missed the workshop and I know you spoke about that. Can you talk about curriculum and content that's going to be on?
Sure. So our 2 teachers that are teaching that is Ms. Sapak and Ms. Bloom. They've been working with the building principals to put together. The first half of the year will be about Zello, careers, Google Suite, Doc. We're gonna have the job fairs like through Junior Achievement, through the Zello platform. So that's going to be the first part of the Crestwood Creators curriculum. And then it goes into STEM. We are working with our secondary campus to build that curriculum following SEALs and the recommendations from the state to make sure that we're meeting the goals of what the class will be. So we're still working on that through the partnership of I2M as well, because they are part of providing the support and the STEM supplies. So there's more information that will be going out through those teachers, but they've done a great job so far. They've been doing some lesson plan.
So in that first half of the year, is that where they're going to be collecting pieces of evidence they need for their careers and those type of things, the career pieces?
Yes.
Because they have to have 6 pieces.
And they're gonna get a certificate at the end, to talk about, that they completed the course. But it's really just introducing what those classes are, and then also just providing people in our community to come and talk about what those classes.
So where were they getting those pieces of evidence before, and what content areas were they doing that? Because again, that opens up, I think that's important for people to know, that opens up other content areas, I'm assuming, because if it was a guidance counselor going in and collecting those pieces, teaching lessons, that opens up her something. If they're trying to do it within the elementary platforms and social studies and those type of things, that opens up more time for social, other things in there. So that can be a good thing. So
Yeah, it's a dedicated focus now. We did a great job last year introducing the Zello platform through the classrooms. Even our secondary campus, 8th grade has careers this year, a dedicated class in that.
That's not my, where were they, what content areas were they collecting those pieces of evidence? And whether you're using Zello platform or not, where were they getting that information? Who was getting that information?
Our teachers.
From what content areas specifically?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
I appreciate it.
I don't.
Truth.
Yeah,
I got
I
that.
honestly don't know the
I
answer.
appreciate that. Truth. Don't know the answer, I'm glad to say it. That's truth.
Absolutely.
That's truth. I believe that. That's good. That's good. All right, so again, I just think it's important that they know the class size information that's gonna happen, because I figured out those numbers. I know you like to make charts. I used your charts and figured that all out and did all those good things with those charts and figured out those class size numbers are gonna be pretty high in there and doing that. And it's good for families and them to know that. So when in PE class, you're gonna have 40 some kids running around. You have 40 some kids running around doing stuff in STEM. You have 40 some kids in a music classroom. That's a lot. So.
Any other questions, non-agenda?
Mrs. Gutierrez.
Mr. Dean, I believe you were to, under solicitor's report, 1 week you said you would get to the next meeting, I believe with the AD's contract.
Yes, I did.
You were going to tell the taxpayers, go over it for the taxpayers?
Yeah, I think your question was whether or not the contract contemplated furlough or suspension. The contract itself, I did review it immediately after the meeting. I reviewed it again today to be prepared for your question. The contract itself, like all personal contracts, does not have, like I'm sure Mr. Waits does in Shenandoah, does not have the word suspension or furlough in it. However, it does list various methods of termination. For example, the athletic director can resign on 90 days written notice. The board can terminate the contract with cause. If it's terminated with cause for certain items, all benefits are forfeited. And it also can be terminated without cause. And then there's provisions in that contract for what happens when it's terminated without cause. So there is no mention of nor is there in any employment contract the mention of furlough or suspension.
But it would, if it was without cause, it may be a reason for furlough may be a reason for without cause of doing that.
That's correct.
So again, in that, I believe because I've read that contract too. I believe in that contract, if it's without cause and you decided to furlough him, you still would pay him no matter
No
what.
different than your contract,
Right.
no different than the superintendent's contract.
No, that's not actually accurate.
Well, then you should have somebody better negotiate your contract.
No, I don't worry about myself getting furloughed, but I think in this personal contract, you don't see that for anybody else in the Act 93 agreement or anything like that. So he personally has it in his contract that stipulates that if he does
Correct.
it without cause. I don't believe
That's-
that's in your contract.
That's
I haven't seen it in your
Yeah,
contract.
I don't-
So you need to negotiate somebody for yourself too, so that you don't do that.
Hey.
As an attorney, it's not in your contract, Jack.
Brian, I have places to go.
Me too. Me too.
Not tonight. I mean, I'm just not. If the board elects
Again,
to,
it's not in your contract, it's in his. So
Right.
that's a unique thing, because it's not something that you see commonly.
actually,
I-
actually,
Not contracts I've read.
well, I have a bunch of them here and that's the purpose of a personal contract, is to provide stability on both ends. What's very important about that particular contract is that it terminates automatically. So other Act 93 employees, let me finish, other Act 93 employees are tenured. The athletic director is not, he's not considered a professional employee. So when that contract ends, he's gone.
I think the way that, to me, again, the way it looks, again, it's about that perception of how this was done. This all happened right before you knew you were gonna have to furlough. And everybody in the district,
Happened over a year ago, Brian.
I know, but everybody knew 2 years ago that somewhere down the line we're gonna have to furlough because of where we're heading in the staff.
I'm glad somebody knew
You know,
that.
so, come on, there have been talks here before about that. I know there
10
have
years
been.
ago.
But, no, I know, I was here then. But in between there have been talks about it as well. And you're obviously, there was initiation of talking about it and actually doing it a couple years ago. And so
Yeah,
people,
and we were able to find some money.
that's right, but And then everybody could see where it was heading down that path, and then a year ago, this changes his contract, he comes out, it just kind of looks suspicious. It's kind of
Well-
those things that's kind of, when you have people with truth, integrity, and trust that's that's lacking, people go, ooh.
Well, Brian, we had public votes on all this and not public discussion on it, so I don't know. There
I
was
understand,
nothing-
but the public may not have been in tune to what was happening within that contract,
I-
the language that was clearly in that contract.
Yeah, and it's been posted on the website when we entered.
I know,
I mean, we're pretty transparent here, buddy.
I see it on the website, I read it, but people didn't.
And
I'm
I
sure there's a lot
understand,
of
I
people
do
who-
understand that, Brian.
Yeah.
I
So
understand
that's
your
part
point,
of it. You
yes.
put something on the website, people don't always read it.
Yeah.
You know, they don't read the course subscription guides that are on the website that talk about all the things that are in there. I know that was part of the workshop the other night. It's all there. It's been there. It's conversations they've had when one principal's talking about things.
All right,
that they do
we
with
understand your
Yeah.
point, I think, so, thank you.
Now another question, Mr. Dean.
Sure, go ahead.
Why aren't all jobs put out, for advertisement? Why could somebody come and knock at your door and say, hey, I'm here for a job? Give this guy or give this lady, whoever a
All
job.
right, so
Does that happen? I don't understand why jobs
No,
don't
we
go out
post-
for all
we
bids.
post bids on every job. In fact, the union support staff, Mrs. Parker, reviews and posts jobs every day. We interviewed posted 2 para educators yesterday. Those are all posted. Teachers are all posted, so I'm not sure what you're
Well,
referring
I'm
to.
going back to Mrs. Malazzo. Were
Miss-
all of
oh,
her jobs posted?
Was Mrs. Malazzo's job posted?
From HR to business to assistant superintendent and then the superintendent, were they all advertised for?
I believe they were.
Okay.
I believe they were. The HR job, I was not involved in that, so I believe it was posted. The superintendent's job was clearly posted. And in fact, we interviewed for that.
No, I don't think, not for Mrs. Malazzo, for the.
Oh, I'm talking about the whole process.
Yeah, no,
When the
she-
predecessor.
I agree with you that her HR position was posted. I'm pretty sure of that too. I'm pretty sure of that. I think what happened whenever the business manager left, I think it was an internal, I don't think it was posting. I think she was just.
Yeah, I don't remember, I
And-
just
and
don't
it's-
remember.
And it's an in-house thing, you don't necessarily need to post at that point in time, so I get that too, but I don't think the posting for when she transitioned there wasn't a posting.
Yeah, and there was
And again,
there was a
you don't
debate
necessarily
over
need
that in public over that.
You don't need to necessarily do that either, because it's in-house.
Right, that's what I was gonna ask, if it's, I thought we even discussed that, not with this position, but other positions.
Yeah.
If it's internal, if there's a qualified candidate internal, you don't
Yeah.
have to.
Well, you don't have to post for any Act 93. We traditionally try
Okay.
to if we don't have somebody in-house that's,
Okay.
we know we can move in there.
Right, no, but that's, but legally, I was saying, yeah.
The qualified thing is what I think is important.
I didn't hear what you said, Brian.
Qualified part is important.
I agree.
Right,
Because-
right.
And that's why we went with Miss Natasha.
Yeah, there was a debate about that, public. Miss Natasha.
Miss Natasha. Sorry, still on.
Thank
you.
Still with the little
Thanks,
kids
that's a
today,
good
sorry.
question. That's a legitimate question.
And I believe 15 or 16, 17 people applied for that position. One applied and couldn't stay, didn't want to stay, I don't know.
I don't believe there were that many. I believe there were 12.
Which position are we talking?
The original superintendent's position, I believe there were 12.
Okay, I know we disagreed over one, you said you didn't know, you always went between.
Which is the question?
How many,
I thought it was 12. Maybe it was 13, 11. I mean,
thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the voting session. We do have a superintendent's report tonight.
Thank you. So I am very excited to share that we are about to start the 23-24 school year. There's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of energy, but I do want to thank the staff, the faculty, administration. They worked all summer and continue to work even to the last moment to really start this 23-24 school year. So I just want to thank them for all their hard work and passion to ensure that our students have a great foundation for this upcoming year. In-service days start on Monday, so all staff are reporting here on Monday. And just a friendly reminder for families that the first day of school is Thursday, August 21st for grades 1 through 12. And kindergarten students, their first day is on Monday, August 28th. We did have lockers set up today, so it was great to see all the families come out and set up their lockers. That was today at 4:30 to 6. Tomorrow, both elementaries will be, which was already communicated, but I just remind everyone that they're self-guided tours at all the elementaries. The hours for those are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. We do have Meet the Teacher schedule out. Again, all this information is sent through our building principals, but I just like to remind everyone, so on Monday, 4th through 6th grade, at both elementaries, it's from 5:30 to 6:30, and the secondary campus also again on Monday is 6:30 to 7:30. And Tuesday we have first grade through third grade, their Meet the Teacher schedule is from 5:30 to 6:30. Again, we talked about this in our committee meeting, that there's free breakfast for all Crestwood students, and if you have the eligibility of reduced lunch, it is now free. Lunch applications are required regardless of the breakfast and the reduced rate, that's free. Please look for communication that will go out in the very near future. We have to have that out and filled back within 30 days of the school year. So just a friendly reminder that you're going to see that come out. So please fill out that paperwork, it's very, very important. Transportation information was sent out last week. The website and the app are now up and running, and if you go into Skyward under bus schedule, you will find at least the bus number. So if you haven't found that information yet, just a friendly reminder that that information is out there. Just a quick update on athletics and clubs. So fall season did start with mandatory practices this week. Golf is out to a great start at 2-0. We have 5 fall sports team. They start their scrimmages on Saturday. Band's been out there playing music all week and they're preparing for their season. Cheerleaders just returned from Pine Forest and a great start to their season. So I just want to wish them all good luck. We look forward. We usually talk about them every board meeting, and I can't wait to share all the exciting season that they have. And finally, Comet Fan Pass. The board did approve the Comet Fan Pass. This year, it's not the white index card. We actually had Life Touch donate. It's going to look like their student ID, but it's at no charge to the district. It's going to say Comet Fan Pass. So we're going to let the students get into the schedule. So next week, so it'll be the week of the 28th, you'll get a communication from me, and you'll see your ID come, and that is a pass where the students throughout the entire district are able to go to a home football game, girls, and basketball games for free. If you do have an elementary student, we do require that you're accompanied by an adult. So we look forward to the 23-24 school year, and thank you to everyone that's made it already successful. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
I know you're past non-agenda items. Can I ask one more question? I apologize. May I? The sewer line. I know you talked a little bit about that. I said so it should be.
Yeah, sure. There is a hole ready to be have the grinder pump installed. The grinder pump's out back. On Tuesday, there will be a crane on site to crane in the concrete for the grinder pump, and it'll be sealed up on Tuesday, and we should be ready to go.
So no problems with operational bathrooms and everything for school students when they come in? Everything's gonna be good and running?
Well,
Now you jinxed that. Yeah.
I hear you.
Thank you.
I understand.
The lawyer answer you got, an engineering answer would be yes, it would be ready.
It will be ready. Yeah.
I just said well.
I went like this.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
I will be seeking approval of minutes of the special board meeting of July 17th.
We gotta do a little.
Roll call.
Ms. Haddock? Here. Mr. Nodone?
Here.
Mrs. Campbell?
Here.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Here.
Mr. Brogdon?
Here.
Mrs. Bibla?
Here.
Mr. Boone? Mr. Swank? And Mr. Macri.
Here.
7 members present.
Thank you. I'll be seeking a motion for the approval of minutes of the special board meeting of July 17th.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Also be seeking a approval of the treasurer's report for June and July. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Haddix?
Yes.
Mr. Nordum?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes.
Mrs. Bibla?
Yes.
And Mr. Macri?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Financial planning.
So I'll be seeking motion and approval for items 1 through 8, and I so move.
Second.
Ms. Haddix?
Yes.
Mr. Nordum?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
I recuse myself from check number 5314. Yes to the rest.
Mrs. Bibla?
Yes.
Mr. Macri?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Transportation. Mrs. Bibla.
I'll be making a motion for item 1. I so move.
Second.
Mrs. Haddix?
Yes.
Mr. Nordum?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes.
Mrs. Bibla?
Yes.
And Mr. Macri?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Policy. Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. I make a motion to move the items under number 1, third reading and adopt A through D, and second reading E. If I could have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carried.
Human Resources. Mrs. Bibla.
I'll be making a motion for item 1 through 9. I so move.
Second.
Mrs. Haddix?
Yes.
Mr. Nordum?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes.
Mrs. Bibla?
Yes.
And Mr. Macri?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Academic programs. Mrs. McCurdy.
Thank you. I'm seeking motion and approval of items 1 through 6.
Second.
Mrs. Haddix?
Yes.
Mr. Nordum?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes.
Mrs. Bibla?
Yes.
And Mr. Macri?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Co-curricular. Mrs. Haddix.
I will be seeking a motion and approval of item numbers 1 through 4 with the exception of number 3NN.
Second.
Mrs. Haddix?
Yes.
Mr. Nordum?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes.
Mrs. Bibla?
I recuse myself on 2C. Yes to the rest.
And Mr. Macri?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Physical plant. Mrs. Haddix.
I will be seeking a motion and a second for item numbers 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Mrs. Haddix?
Yes to numbers 1 and 2, no to number 3.
Mr. Nordum?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes to 1 and 2, no to number 3.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes to number 1 and 2. No to number 3.
Mrs. Bibla?
Yes.
And Mr. Macri?
Yes.
Motion carried. After that carried.
Technology Committee. Mrs. McCurdy.
Thank you. Seeking approval of items 1 and 2. I so move.
Second?
Who seconded that? I'm sorry. Okay. Mrs. Haddix?
Yes.
Mr. Nordum?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes.
Mrs. Bibla?
Yes.
and Mr. McRae.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.